We've come to South Dakota to the Black Hills Ammunition Testing Lab to show you something really cool. Jeff, somebody might look at this and say, oh, it looks like sort of a open tip match or some sort of hollow point bullet, but it's not. It's the dual performance bullet, which does a lot of things. How do you explain it?
That bullet is a monolithic bullet that's designed to sacrifice some of its weight early on. It opens up right away, forms a great wound cavity, and after the wound cavity is formed, it sheds the petals. It does better than shed the petals. The petals continue to cut their own wound track.
Okay.
But once that shank of the bullet is free from the petals, it's got a lot less drag, and it will penetrate further than if the bullet retained all of its mushroomed weight. So that's the name dual performance.
Which is not always an easy thing to do, because if you get deep penetration, maybe you don't get that wound cavity, or vice versa, right? So this is a specially designed bullet. We've got this in a 62 grain 5.56 223, but you have it in some other loads too, right?
Right. Well, we have the 5.56. We've got a 90 grain load and 6 arc. We've got a 260 load, a 6.5, and a 308 load.
Okay. I think the best way to explain this bullet is to shoot it into gel. What do you say?
You'll like this. It works well. You'll be impressed.
This 5.56 round into gel. Jeff, dual performance is pretty neat, and what do you expect to see out of a 5.56?
I think what you're going to see here, based on prior testing, we're going to have an immediate expansion. We'll have a nice temporary cavity diameter, and you're going to see somewhat longer penetration than what we would see with some of the other projectiles.
And this is out of a regular 16-inch AR, so let's do it.
Okay.
Jeff, we were saying that really to understand dual performance bullets, you kind of have to see it in action. And you said that's the deal, dual performance. It does two things well. So now we're seeing it here. What do we see?
What we're seeing is it opened up immediately. As soon as it hit the block, started expansion, formed a great temporary cavity, shed petals. You can see some petal fragments here. You can see where the wound tracked from them. And at that point, after shedding the petals, the shank of the bullet gave great penetration.
This is incredible penetration for a 62 grain bullet.
For a 5.56, this is about as good as it gets for a 5.56 for any terminal performance bullet. Any bullet designed to expand or fragment, this is as good as it gets.
Yeah, it's kind of incredible. And typically out of a 62 grain bullet, what weight are we left with on the shank?
You'll lose some, obviously, when the petals come off and they're cutting their own wound track. After that, typically this shank weighs somewhere around 36 grains. But it's still sufficient to be doing things like giving you exits on deer, ensuring that you get sufficient penetration after you've got your initial wound cavity. This is giving you great penetration for a 5.56.
And this is the smallest load you do, so I imagine the bigger cartridges are pretty impressive.
That's correct. You can get great penetration with the larger, but for a 5.56, this is really good.
Dual performance into gel, but also perhaps dual performance in the field, law enforcement or hunting. This bullet does a lot of things well. To see all of Gun Talk's content, go to guntalk.com, guntalktv.com, or sign up for the Gun Talk newsletter.